On to the SEC. It was what Coach Sark called a, quote, culture and toughness win for his Longhorns as they barely beat Vanderbilt 27-24 in their SEC road debut. QB Quinn Ewers shook off an early tip pass for an interception to complete 17 straight passes. But what does Coach think they have to do moving forward?
At some point, I don't know if we're ever going to have to play a perfect game, but we're going to have to play closer to perfect to go achieve the things that we want to achieve. And there's nothing wrong with that as a competitor, right? We're not a finished product. I think our best football is still ahead of us, and we're looking forward to that.
Now, there's no such thing as perfect, and Texas is far from that. So, Des, where do they need to clean up to become somewhat close to achieving that?
Yeah, I think that first we need to give Vanderbilt and Clark Lee, you know, their due respect because, I mean, he's a coach that he does more with less, so to speak, because he's not getting this type of caliber of athlete that a Texas would get or an Alabama would get because of the academic requirements at Vanderbilt. But you get a Diego Pavia, who's a guy who supremely believes in himself, and then that becomes contagious, and everybody in the football locker room, they start to believe it too, and then they go out there and they play the Goliath, knocking off all of these, they play the David, knocking off all these Goliaths, or at least going toe-to-toe with them. So you have to give Clark Lee a lot of credit. As far as Texas is concerned, I still want to see better out of Quinn Ewers. Now, I would say he had a really good game. Not a great game because he threw three touchdowns, but he also threw 2 interceptions. But don't forget the Oklahoma game, you know, he didn't look great. 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And, of course, we saw what Georgia did to him. He had to come out in the first half, and they put Arch Manning in there. And I know, Sam, people are going to say, well, you know, Georgia's defensive line was, you know, just dominating the trenches, which is part of the story. But if you watch the film, there were also throws that were there to be made that Quinn Ewers just did not make.
No, Des, I agree with you. And I will put a pin on the point of the offensive line for Texas does need to play better because Georgia dominated up front, but also Vanderbilt looked pretty good. Vanderbilt got a couple sacks on Texas' offensive line, which leads me to the point of, okay, what happened in the Georgia game? Well, there was quarterback mobility issues, so they made a switch to Arch Manning temporarily. And so if the offensive line isn't protecting and if everyone's taking away the deep shot and stopping the run game, maybe there could be other windows for Arch Manning, who's a more athletic quarterback, to get in the game to try and slow down some of the pass rush for opponents that they play. Now, the biggest opponent they play is going to be, in my opinion, a couple weeks when they play A&M, but there could be opportunity for the offensive line to be better, and also for Quinn, to your point, to be more accurate as well down the field, not just side to side.
And Texas still has about a 78% chance to make the playoff, according to our All-State playoff predictor. Let's take a look at this week's college football rankings brought to you by Chick-fil-A. No change in the top 4 spots in this week's poll. Both Notre Dame and Texas A&M got the biggest jumps in the poll, with each moving up 4 spots. The Aggies are in the top 10 for the first time since 2022. Colorado, one of 2 new additions in the top 25 and also bowl eligible for the first time since 2020. And Coach Prime knew exactly who to call, the Buffs' 99-year-old superfan, Miss Peggy.
I want to congratulate you to being able to go to a bowl game this year.
Oh, well, thank you for that. I want to congratulate you for what your team absolutely was wonderful tonight. You've done such a good job, and thank you. Thank you, Deanna.
Now, Miss Peggy should be proud because this is the first time since 2016 that Colorado has had 6+ wins, because they only had 5 total wins in 2022 and 2023 combined. So, Des, how impressed are you with Colorado and Coach Prime with what he has done in 2 years?
I'm very impressed. You know, you look at what happened a year ago, and they started the season off strong. I mean, they pretty much owned the month of September. Everyone was talking about Colorado, but they finished with 6 straight losses. And then to week 2, go on the road, play a Nebraska team and lose. People are like, yeah, they're not any good. Coach Prime is in over his head. But he was able to right the ship. The guys, the players, they continue to believe in him. And he has 2 superstars in his son, Shedeur Sanders, and, of course, Travis Hunter. So kudos to Coach Prime and his staff and his players for becoming bowl eligible.
and for overcoming adversity. That's what's been most impressive for me over the past several seasons. The adversity of changing conferences, the adversity of losing the way you did to Nebraska, the adversity of that tough game early versus North Dakota State. Yes, for whatever reason, everyone inside that locker room continues to believe. And so I've been really impressed by Coach Prime and the belief he's instilled in his team despite the adversity they faced.